All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back. We're going to jump right into it today and go for a deep dive,
Mm.
into steel.
Yeah.
Because you talk about steel a lot on the show. But today we're looking specifically at the U.S. domestic steel market, early 2025, and focusing on steel stamping and secondary steel sectors.
Yeah, right.
And those of you listening, you know this stuff. You follow these markets.
Yeah.
So you already know it's a complex landscape. So we're going to try to break it down a little bit today. We've got some sources for you. But mainly we're going to be focusing on a piece by Steve Ferguson, who's a veteran procurement and supply chain expert.
Okay.
He's got over 20 years experience, so he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah, definitely an expert in the field.
Yeah, so we're going to try to help you understand what he's saying, what the main takeaways are, and what the challenges and the opportunities are
Right.
in this specific market right now. So,
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, Ferguson's perspective, because he's right there, in the trenches, dealing with this stuff every day.
Yeah, he's not just like an academic,
Right, exactly.
who's just looking at it from afar.
Yeah.
He's actually
He's dealing with the nitty gritty.
yeah, he's dealing with it. And
Yeah.
he talks about, significant challenges and a volatile environment.
Yeah, and I think that
When he talks about this market,
that's what we want to kind of unpack. What does that actually mean for, someone who's trying to navigate this market?
yeah, how do we break that down
Oh,
for the average listener or for the listener?
Well, I think what he's really getting at is that there are a confluence of factors that are creating this kind of perfect storm of uncertainty. We've got tariffs that are impacting trade flows. We have an economy that's kind of, bouncing around a bit.
Yeah, nobody knows what's happening with the economy.
And all of this makes it incredibly difficult to predict what's going to happen with steel prices,
Right.
let alone the, stability of the entire supply chain.
Yeah, it's like if you are, trying to design a car chassis or something, and you've got all these,
Right.
you've got the plans,
Good till heck.
you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden the price of steel jumps
Right.
10%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Before you can even place the order.
That's gotta be.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
That's a nightmare for these manufacturers.
It is.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Ferguson really highlights is the pressure this puts on both large and small manufacturers,
Right.
especially in, these sectors that we're talking about, the steel stamping and the secondary steel markets.
Can you quickly explain what secondary steel is? I think some listeners might not.
Yeah, of course. So secondary steel refers to steel that's been recycled and processed.
Okay.
Steel, it's really important part of the industry because it offers a more sustainable option,
Right.
rather than, using virgin materials all the time.
Right. Good.
But even then, even with secondary steel,
Right.
this volatility impacts everyone.
Yeah. So,
Larger companies might have more resources to kind of cushion the blow, but for smaller companies with tighter margins,
right.
it's really hard to plan for the future.
Right. And it's not just the price. It's also will it be there when I need it?
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's that reliability factor as well.
Am I even going to be able to get the steel
Right.
to make this?
Exactly.
So it's a double whammy.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So,
Thank
you know,
That sounds pretty bleak.
yeah, we've painted a pretty bleak picture here.
It is a challenging environment.
But Ferguson also says that, the industry's fighting back.
Yeah.
Like,
He uses the word scrappy, which
yeah.
I love.
What does it mean?
It means that, these companies are getting creative. They're figuring out ways not just to survive, but to actually thrive
Okay.
in this kind of chaotic environment.
So there's that resilience factor.
Right, that resilience that he talks about.
Yeah. What are some of those strategies?
So one of the big things that he talks about is diversifying supply chains.
Okay.
And, companies are realizing they can't just rely on one single source anymore.
Yeah. So it's like they're putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
And then if
something happens,
if that basket breaks, they're
in trouble. So Ferguson actually gives this example of Company X, and I'm not going to name them.
Okay.
But they traditionally sourced all their steel domestically,
Okay.
right here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're exploring options in South America and Asia.
Wow.
Just to spread that risk a little bit.
It's
Not putting all your eggs in one basket.
don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
I like that.
Yeah. Spread the risk.
But isn't that expensive?
Yeah, it can be.
Especially for a smaller company.
It can be.
How can they afford to,
Yeah.
Be sourcing from all these different places?
Well, and that's what Ferguson argues is that, in the long run, the benefits outweigh those upfront costs.
Okay.
It's about mitigating risk.
Okay.
He also talks about how some smaller companies are actually banding together
Oh, wow.
and forming these like co-ops to leverage their buying power
Oh, that's cool.
so that they can get better deals from a wider range of suppliers.
So there is a way to do it,
Yeah,
even if you're a smaller company.
exactly.
Strength in numbers kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
What else? What other strategies are they using?
Another thing that Ferguson talks about is technology,
Okay.
specifically predictive analytics
Okay.
for supply chains.
Yeah, what is that?
So you can almost think of it like a weather forecast,
Yep.
but for steel prices and availability. So these companies are using, sophisticated algorithms and data analysis to kind of anticipate potential disruptions and then adjust their plans accordingly.
So they can be like, oh, okay, it looks like the price of steel is going to go up in 3 months, so we should stock up now.
Right, exactly.
Or it looks like there's going to be a shortage of this particular type of steel, so let's go ahead and find a new supplier now.
Exactly, so before it becomes a problem.
Before it becomes an issue?
Yeah.
That's smart.
It's all about being proactive.
Yeah, I like that.
And then another interesting thing he mentions is this idea of inventory data sharing.
Inventory data share, what is that?
So imagine like this network where companies, even competitors,
Wow.
are sharing real-time data on their inventory levels.
That's wild.
It is pretty wild.
Yeah.
And what this allows them to do is identify potential shortages or surpluses, and then they can work together
Collaborate.
to smooth out the bumps in the supply chain. So it's a huge shift from kind of that cutthroat competition to a more cooperative approach.
So instead of hoarding resources, everyone is kind of working together to make sure that everything keeps moving.
Keep the whole system flowing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that really speaks to this idea of adaptability that Ferguson sees as just absolutely crucial for success in this market.
Yeah.
It's not just about reacting to change. It's about anticipating change.
Right.
And finding creative solutions.
Proactive instead of reactive.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've got, uncertainty, we've got challenges, we've got innovation, collaboration. What's the big takeaway?
I think the big takeaway is that in times of uncertainty, adaptability is paramount.
Adaptability.
You got to be flexible, you got to stay informed, and you got to build those strong relationships, even with your competitors sometimes.
Right. And it seems like the companies that are really, succeeding in this environment are the ones that are doing all of those things.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for breaking that down. That was a really, really helpful deep dive into this, topic.
Of course.
So as you all continue to explore this topic, I want you to think about what other industries might be facing similar challenges in the coming years.
Yeah.
And what can they learn from the resilience of the steel industry? So just some food for thought. And thanks for joining us for this deep dive. And we'll see you next time.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.
We're good.
We're good.
Yeah. Awesome.